All right, welcome back to the Olympic Coaching Podcast. I'm Coach Caleb here with Matt, and so we are diving into a topic today. A question that we got was, what are the effects of long-term dieting? So I'm excited to talk about this. We're going to do this. We'd love to come together and just not fully plan these podcasts so it's really real for you guys. It's really authentic. And so when we come together, we give our expert opinion and also from our experience in the Olympic coaching business. So let's dive into this topic. All right, so we got a question whenever we put out a status of, we're preparing some new podcasts. What do you guys want to hear about? And one of the first questions we got is, what are the effects of long-term dieting? And so I assume that person was asking about what's the effects of restricting your diet in some way, restricting what you eat in some way, creating a calorie deficit, as in eating less than what your body may need to sustain, and maybe restricting your food choices of what you may have used to eat. So coming from that context, by the way, awesome mustache. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you should check out Matt's mustache. It's impressive. So if you're listening, thanks for being here. Just imagine how great of a mustache it is. Check us out on YouTube, either one, whatever podcast platform you're on, or whatever, or visiting the Olympic Coaching YouTube page. We love bringing this podcast to you guys. So what are your initial thoughts to this question, Matt?
First off, thanks for the compliment. I said yesterday that I kind of looked like a used car salesman at times, but that's all right. I think my first initial thoughts when I think about restricting your diet is how it's going to affect your body in the future. And so one of the main things that comes to mind for me is how your metabolism is going to change. And so if we're limiting our calories for an extended period of time, our body's going to recognize that as okay, well, this is the new normal. This is what I have to work with. And so this is what we have to make work day to day. We're not going to keep burning excess energy if we only get this much allowed to us. It'd be like constantly running up more debt when you can't pay for it. Mm-hmm. And so our body doesn't want to do that. Our body is responsible and wants to only use the energy that it actually has coming in. And so when we do that, when our metabolism gets a lot lower, it's going to be a lot harder to lose that extra weight, and could just have other complications in the future too. So
great point. We've talked about this in previous podcasts before about what happens whenever you're at a calorie deficit for too long. It's like your body's in a famine. So it's funny because the thought can come to mind for people. Can I break my own metabolism? Am I broken? Why am I not losing weight? Or why am I not getting results from my workout or whatever? It's not because your metabolism's broken, as long as you don't have some sort of hormonal deficiency or something, which the vast majority of us do not. So it's not necessarily broken. Our bodies are smart. Oftentimes they're smarter than our own thought processes. Our bodies are made to survive. They're made to find a way to thrive in our environment in the best, most efficient way possible to maintain what's called homeostasis. And homeostasis is this set point that it's our body wants. This is our normal that we want to keep and protect. And so some examples of homeostasis is your blood sugar. Your body will fight to keep blood sugar at a certain level, or your blood oxygen content, or your body temperature is super tightly regulated. Your body temperature gets 1 degree up or down, then you don't feel right. So that's your homeostasis, okay? And you have to disrupt homeostasis to create change. But if you disrupt it for too long, then you have created a stressor that's going beyond what your body can handle, and it has to try to adjust to that. And so, specifically with dieting, yeah, you have entered a famine, and the way that your body is hormonally responding is like, crap, we have to live at 1,200 calories a day. What do I got to sacrifice in my body tissues so that I can survive at 1,200 calories a day? And if you get to that point, which that can, sometimes it can take a couple of months for someone to reach that point. If you're restricting calories that strictly for a long period of time, like more than 4 to 6 weeks, that's like a serious cut kind of thing, a weight cut. 1,200 calories is like wrestling style. Trying to reduce weight insanely fast, but even wrestlers refeed, you know. But your body is going to get to a point where it sacrifices muscle tissue and performance, and it hangs on to the body fat. And whenever you refeed, your body is more likely to store that energy, as in store it as fat, rather than lay down new muscle or something like that. Unless you keep that up for a while and your body kind of recognizes a new normal, like, oh, you're eating again. Okay, now we have permission to put muscle on. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like this scary. That's why people will diet strictly and cut down, you know, lose a lot of weight. And then the moment they go back to eating what was normal for them before the diet, they gain all of the weight and even more right back, significantly faster than they lost it. And that's depressing. That's a vicious cycle. And if your long-term dieting looks like that vicious cycle, what you're doing is you're putting stress on your heart, like physical stress on your heart, because that's a massive body change, and it's not good for your heart health long-term. So there's been studies that show yo-yo dieting puts you at a higher risk of cardiovascular disease than just staying at the same weight your whole life. And so, interesting with that.
You mentioned like hormonal deficiencies or different things. Mm-hmm. Could restrictive dieting or like restricting certain food groups as a part of a restrictive diet play any part in that?
Like cause hormonal deficiencies?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Or is any problems?
Not necessarily. It can affect your testosterone and or estrogen levels, depending on male or female. Your sex hormones, as in, like, if you're at an extreme calorie deficit, really what it is it's a stressor to your body. Stress is cumulative. And so it comes from all areas. And so, and if those sex hormones are down-regulated, then you're not likely to, those hormones are important for anabolic processes. And so you're not going to lay down new tissue, mm-hmm. And you're not going to have as much drive physically, whether that's sex drive or even just like physical performance kind of drive, you know, like, mm-hmm. I'm just tired, I can't get through workouts kind of thing. So that can be a hormonal effect. But as far as like your other, like thyroid hormone, which is important for metabolism, that doesn't necessarily get affected by restricted dieting as much, from what I've seen. So that's a great question. But let's even think about from different angles. What about how does it affect you emotionally or socially if you're dieting long term?
Yeah, when we first started talking about doing this topic, I think I just said, well, it's no fun. Like, is it, plain and simple, like it's just not very fun to be doing that for a long time. And so I think socially and emotionally, it's like, it's going to be difficult at times, and you're gonna have to say no to a lot of things socially if you are gonna be really strict and restrictive with what you eat. And it's gonna be some things that are just not always the most enjoyable. It's gonna be difficult days sometimes where you just want to have whatever your comfort food is. But
yeah, Yeah, it becomes emotionally challenging to keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you feel like you're an outcast. You feel alone or isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And so that honestly, that adds up over time. And you may end up having sort of like these binges because you just want to fit in. You know, like your friend's having a barbecue, you want to go, and they're having lots of food that you haven't been having, but you're like, but I just wanted to connect with my friends. And so you go and you end up pigging out on a lot of food. And so like, and then you have this guilt cycle that's just like creates an unhealthy relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's rough. And so if you become like this ultra strict dieter, and eventually if you do this for too long and you have these vicious cycles, you can even develop food disorders, which is like sort of these emotional attachments with food tied to your identity of who you are. It's a very unhealthy relationship with food. You know, always critiquing yourself, like I'm never good enough. I have to keep dieting more and more strict, and then it becomes more isolating, and then it becomes this difficult secret to get out into the light. And so that's like an extreme example, but some of us can have those tendencies where it's like some people it's like over exercise, some people it's over strict dieting and everything, and that's not healthy for us emotionally in the long term either.
Right. And I mean, if we are feeling that way, we are being less healthy emotionally and socially, then those binges are gonna, you know, come about more and more regularly. Mm-hmm. So all the work, maybe you're perfect throughout the week, you know, you're doing great. This diet really could work for you, but you binge on the weekend with your friends. There goes all the work that you did on the week during the week.
Yeah.
And so then that's even more discouraging, right? It's like, well, I just did all this work, you know, and then nothing. Or the opposite. I went the opposite way. And so that's even more difficult and can kind of just, like you said, build it on itself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If I'm trying to restrict calories throughout the week and then I eat like a 7,000 calorie meal at a gathering, you know, with some drinks and some heavy food, then I just erased my calorie deficit for the week. And so I don't really have any physical change throughout. I don't lose any weight. I lose any body fat that I'm trying to lose. So what's a different alternative to like this long-term strict dieting? How can we get more practical with this? Like, what's a different approach? What do you think?
Yeah, I think if we want to be able to do it for the long term, we can't be restricting like entire groups of food or entire like, just, you know, we don't want to be at 1,200 calories. Like we can't do that forever.
Yeah.
And so it's more about just making like the small decisions that you can maintain and you can do day to day. So, and that'll grow over time, right? You get one thing down that you can do day to day, great. Like, you know, you start to see positive momentum, then you add in something else. You're like, okay, now I can build in some more healthy habits that'll help me reach my goal. And so whether that's just adding in, you know, more protein or more vegetables or, you know, whatever your diet is lacking, you can just start to take one step at a time. Yeah, it's taking those small behavior-related steps at a time can be really huge. It's something that's not quite as drastic of a change, but it does create more sustainable lifestyle long-term. It's like, and that is like, rather than doing these extreme diets, it's like, let's go for something that's like gradual. I'm going to create a lifestyle change that I can maintain so I don't have to do this terrible dieting cycle. It's like, well, I gained weight again, guess I'll go on a diet. It's just like, it creates this, I don't know, almost sarcastic hatred of dieting. It's right.
Like, I got fat again. I guess I'll try to go on a strict diet. I hate my life, you know.
I think like people want that instant gratification, right? They want to lose the weight or, you know, see the change right away. But if we make the lifestyle changes so it's actually maintained throughout our life, then it's going to be a lot more enjoyable. We're not going to be yo-yoing back and forth. Yeah.
So, I mean, let me throw some science at you. With a lot of diets will like recommend restricting as low as like 1,200 to 1,400 calories a day. Okay, so let's think a little bit. Let's zoom out a little bit. The RDA is, you see this on calorie labels based on a 2,000 calorie per day diet. The reason they say 2,000 calories per day is that's like a base, sort of like to keep you alive kind of recommendation. That's what the RDAs are based off of, to prevent deficiencies. That's why the protein recommendation is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. And these kind of RDAs are really just for basic survival. It's not to support physical activity in any way, and it does not take into account body size either, for smaller individuals, for larger individuals, or people with larger body mass. And so when we actually are calculating calories for our clients and stuff, like we often see like, wow, just your calories you burn sitting around all day, you're burning like between 1,500 to like 1,800 calories a day with zero exercise. You add in some activity, whether that's just chores or walking from place to place, or if you're actually trying to be physically active and work out some, like that means your calories that you're burning ends up crossing 2,000. Sometimes for a lot of our athletes that we coach, it goes above 3,000 calories a day that you're burning. And so like if you want to maintain who you are, then you got to eat. If you're at this extreme calorie deficit, then you get zero strength gains. You're just busted up all the time. That's a sign if your diet is not matching your activity, if you just feel broken all the time. You get hurt easily, you catch a cold easy, you're not able to push through workouts, you just don't have the drive to get through it. And so that really adds up over time, and you end up getting hurt, binging. If you have these crazy cravings, like that's a sign your body's trying to give you, like this isn't working. And so coming back to what you said is like, yeah, okay, if what I'm doing, my normal right now, is making me gain weight, what are some small things that I can do to, okay, clearly I'm eating more than I'm burning. So before I think about increasing my exercise level, where are some easy places, like some low-hanging fruit that I can address right now? Like, oh, I tend to have a snack at 9 o'clock at night. What if I don't have a snack and I have a cup of tea instead, Or have something that's like insanely low calorie, like a handful of popcorn, Or what if I choose to have, less cheese, like things that are really calorie dense, high in fat, things like that. What if I choose to have less fried food and have more whole food, like stuff that's, what if I try to cook at home more often than eating fast food? Like small behavioral things that over time can add up, like, oh, I'm just eating a few hundred less calories a day. I didn't have that snack today, and so now that gives me a few hundred calories less. Wow, suddenly over time I'm losing weight, I'm losing inches, and I still have energy to work out. I'm not shocking my system. I can go ahead and add exercise in, and by just those small nutritional changes, and as you learn more about yourself, as you learn more about food and food choices, then you make better food choices for yourself and your goals, and then you end up getting leaner over time. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. So that's a great question that we started with. Like at Olympic Coaching, we do not support extreme dieting at all. We encourage much more of a gradual approach, finding what works for you. If you have a deadline, like you got a wedding coming up, and if it's within 2 weeks, we'll go ahead and say you can go work with someone else, because that's not a realistic goal that we want to work with people on. Because what can you do in 2 weeks? You can cut carbs and drink less water and lose a bunch of water weight. You're not going to lose much body fat. So, interesting thoughts. Do you have any other thoughts on these questions?
One question I would have for you is, if when we're trying to make a change and reduce calories, we don't want to do it to like the 1,200 level, but if we're still reducing it, maybe say 300-400, can we get some similar problems as if it was like a very restrictive diet, or will it just take longer to kind of see those potential negative consequences, or yeah, how's that work?
That's a great question. It kind of depends. Depends on your social environment. It depends on your social support system that you have. And it also depends on, are you slowing down? Are you working on your awareness of eating? If you for example, like one of the base habits we work with people on is just eating slower. If you eat insanely fast and you try to reduce your lunch by just like one portion, like one less piece of bread, or something like that, that you might think like, oh, I'm still hungry, because you ate so fast. Your stomach doesn't have time to tell your brain that I'm full enough. Mm-hmm. We're fine. And so in that sense, you end up going back for a snack that maybe even more than what you would have originally eaten at lunchtime. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And if you have this, this social network where you're getting pressured a lot, peer pressure, or like if you try to reduce even just a little bit, I'm only gonna have one drink tonight, guys. I'm not gonna have 3. And they just start pressuring you like crazy, and then that becomes hard to maintain for very long, even though it's a tiny reduction. It's not like cutting it off completely. So it really depends on your situation, but it won't necessarily damage your body in any way to do a smaller calorie deficit. And if you're increasing your activity or your intensity with your exercise along with a small calorie deficit, you can actually end up getting faster results than you would if with an extreme calorie deficit, because you have more energy available to do the exercise. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, good question. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
So. Good stuff. Well, I hope this podcast was helpful for you guys today. Answered that question. Hope that answers the question well of what happens when we have long-term dieting. We don't support that. And if you want help in this, if you have just had this endless cycle of trying to diet and not getting success, and you want help with that, reach out to us. Visit linfit.com, send us an inquiry or sign up for our coaching, or just shoot us a message. Anytime you can respond to the comments on this video or in a review on podcast app that you're listening to. So thanks for tuning in today, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.